Good morning, boys. Good morning, boys and girls. I'll be taking today sedative, myself, Dr. Ramesh Chandra, and I'll be taking sedative, hypnotics, and anxiolytics. So, the chapter which we are going to deal today, we'll be discussing about sedatives, the drugs which act as a sedative, and the drugs which causes hypnosis. And we'll be discussing about their classification and their mechanism of action and the therapeutic uses, contraindications, so on and so forth. And then so let's see what is a sedative. A sedative is a drug that reduces excitement and calms a person. And a hypnotic is a drug that produces sleep, presumably normal sleep. As you can see here, so there is a difference between a sedative as well as a hypnotic. A sedative is a drug which reduces the excitement of a person and makes a person calm. On the contrary, a hypnotic is a drug that produces sleep, presumably normal sleep. There is a lot of difference between sedative as well as a one drug causes reduces excitement, the other one produces normal sleep, which produces sleep which resembles to normal sleep. And anxiolytic, on the other hand, is somewhat decreases, just like a sedative, but it reduces anxiety like physical, emotional, or cognitive. So we have seen the difference between a sedative, an hypnotic, and an anxiolytic. A sedative reduces excitement, hypnotic, it produces sleep which resembles normal sleep. And on the other hand, anxiolytic reduces anxiety like physical, emotional, or cognitive. So as you all know, normal sleep consists of two distinct phases. You know them, you must have learned in your physiology, like NREM sleep as well as REM sleep. So this consists of two distinct stages based on electrophysiological studies like the electroencephalogram, the electromyogram, and then electronystagmogram. So you must have learned about this physiology of sleep in your physiology classes. So we'll not be going to the details of sleep, but then we'll know what are the two distinct stages. And let's see them. Okay, two distinct stages which occur cyclically over a period of 90 minutes. So one is non-rapid eye movement. So it has got two distinct stages which occur cyclically over a period of 90 minutes. So there are two types, as I've told you. One is non-rapid eye movement, or otherwise called as NREM sleep, and it has got four stages: stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and stage 4. So about 50% of sleep time is spent here in the stage 2, and then stage 3 and stage 4 are slow wave sleeps. So most of the persons, they spend their maximum time or normally about 50% sleep time in stage 2. And then we have got rapid eye movement, otherwise called as recall dreams. So this constitutes sleep cycle. It has got two phases: NREM movement as well as REM sleep or NREM sleep. So non-rapid eye movement and rapid eye movement. Non-rapid eye movement has got four stages: stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3, stage 4. Normally about 50% of sleep time is spent in stage 2, whereas stage 3 and 4 are slow wave sleep pattern, has got slow wave sleep. Rapid eye movement, otherwise called as recall dreams. And then let's see what is an anxiety. So what are the drugs which are used in the treatment of anxiety? So anxiety is an emotional state which is unpleasant in nature, associated with uneasiness, discomfort, and concern or fear about some defined or undefined future threat. So whenever a person feels anxiety, so he'll be in a state of emotion. And the scene we see over here is it is unpleasant in nature, mainly associated with uneasiness. Patient feels irritable, discomfort, and concern or fear about some defined or undefined future threat. So that is anxiety. So whenever they ask you in exam hall, You're supposed to write all this. So anxiety, which is an emotional state, so on and so forth. And then anxiety has similar symptoms to fear. So as much when you compare anxiety and fear, they do have some similar symptoms, but persists after the stress has ended. Anxiety, it still persists after the stress has ended. A fear response in the absence of a appropriate stimulus. Some degree of anxiety is a part of normal life. So every person has got anxiety, which is a part of normal life. But psychotics exhibit pathological anxiety, therefore treatment is required. So there is a difference. Every person in life, they do experience anxiety, and it is a part of normal life. But some psychotics, they exhibit pathological anxiety, therefore treatment is required over here. So anxiety has got two components, mainly psychological as well as physical. So it is of two types. It has got two components, and anxiety is of two types. Primary anxiety, which is the cause is discernible. So mainly because of maybe because of an adjustment disorder or phobias, panic disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, as well as situational anxiety. And then secondary anxiety, it is maybe because of a stressful situation or underlying some pathology or some disease or usage or withdrawal of drugs or substance of abuse. So that constitutes secondary anxiety. Now let's see the etiology. So there is an overactivity of adrenergic system. There is an overactivity of adrenergic system in the CNS, and there is dysregulation of serotonergic system in the CNS. The main reason being, so what happens here is there is overactivity of adrenergic system in the CNS, as well as there is dysregulation of serotonergic system in the CNS. What are the characteristics of this anxiety? So mainly we have characters or symptoms like psychic symptoms as well as somatic symptoms. So psychic symptoms like tension, apprehension, irritability is seen, and somatic symptoms like palpitations, sweating, breathlessness, tremor, fatigue, as well as there is disturbed sleep. So these are the characteristics of anxiety. Then what is the nature of anxiety? So it may be either single episodic or maybe chronic or repeatedly. So its nature is it may be single or chronic. Anxiety produces physical symptoms, and there is increased and the increased autonomic activity leads to increase in blood pressure. So whenever a person experiences anxiety, so there is an increased autonomic activity which leads to an increase in blood pressure. There is increase in heart rate, and the respiratory rate will be erratic, and decreased salivary flow leading to dry mouth and throat, and as well as a person may experience gastrointestinal disturbances as well. So treatment. So how do you treat such a case of anxiety? So basically we try to treat him with psychological approach or through behavioral therapy. You take the patient to a psychologist. So you try to treat him psychological or through behavioral therapy or behavioral support. If this doesn't work out, then we do opt for drug treatment or drug therapy, or drugs, they come into play. So anxiolytics. So these are the drugs which are used in the treatment of anxiety or which reduces anxiety. And the strategy for treatment is to reduce anxiety without causing sedation. What is the basic pharmacology of sedative hypnotics? An effective sedative or an anxiolytic agent should reduce anxiety and exert a calming effect with little or no effect on motor or mental functions. On the other hand, an hypnotic drug should produce drowsiness and encourage the onset and maintenance of a state of sleep that, as far as possible, resembles the natural sleep state. So in general, an effective sedative agent should reduce anxiety and exert a calming effect with little or no effect on motor or mental functions. And an hypnotic drug should produce drowsiness and encourage the onset and maintenance of a state of sleep that, as far as possible, resembles that of a natural sleep state. So hypnotics effects involve more pronounced depression of the central nervous system. So over here, the hypnotic effects we see with depression of the central nervous system than sedation. So, and this can be achieved with most sedative drugs simply by increasing dose. So, as you keep increasing the dose, so there is depression of the central nervous system, then sedation. So, there is graded dose dependent. So, the actions of these drugs is generally dose dependent. And as you keep increasing dose, there is depression of the central nervous system. And this is the most characteristics of sedative hypnotics. So mainly these are dose-dependent actions of these drugs. So hypnotics effects involve more pronounced depression of the central nervous system than sedation. And this can be achieved with most sedative drugs simply by increasing the dose. Graded dose-dependent depression of central nervous system function is a characteristic of sedative hypnotics. So most of the members of this group, apart from benzodiazepines, produce all degree of non-specific CNS depression, starting from relief of anxiety, disinhibition, sedation, hypnosis, anesthesia, as well as coma and death. So all the members of this group, except that of benzodiazepines, they produce all degrees of non-specific CNS depression, starting from that of relief of anxiety, disinhibition, sedation, hypnosis, anesthesia, as well as coma and death. So all this is attributed due to the dose-dependent actions of these drugs. So classification. So let's see the classification. They're classified as into benzodiazepines, barbiturates, non-benzodiazepine hypnotics. And in benzodiazepines, we have drugs like diazepam, lorazepam, midazolam, alprazolam, clonazepam, and then barbiturates, long-acting, short-acting as well as ultra-short-acting. And in long-acting, drugs like phenobarbital, mifebarbital. Short-acting, we have drugs like pentobarbital, secobarbital. Ultra-short-acting, drugs like thiopentone, and then methotrexate, and non-benzodiazepine hypnotics, otherwise called as Z compounds. So in exam, they can ask you as Z compounds. So they are nothing but non-benzodiazepine hypnotics drugs like zolpidem, zopictonin, zalpilon. And then we have other drugs, members like bisphenol, propranolol, clonidine, chloral hydrate, triclophos, hydroxin, meprobamate, promethazine, and melatonin. So all these are used as anxiolytics. So that constitutes a classification of anxiolytics. And then let us see about benzodiazepines. What is their nature? And they have got a benzene ring fused to a 7-membered diazepine ring. So what's the mechanism of action? They facilitate action of GABA. They mainly act on GABA receptors. They potentiate inhibitory effects of GABA. So as you can see here, benzodiazepines, they bind to a specific site on GABA, a benzodiazepine chloride channel complex. And thereby they increase the frequency of opening of chloride channels. What happens here? There is increase in GABA-mediated chloride conductance, thereby causing membrane hyperpolarization, and this leads to CNS depression. So this is how these drugs act. So they bind to a specific site on GABA-A benzodiazepine receptor chloride channel complex. Thereby there is increase in the frequency of opening of chloride channels, and this leads to an increase in GABA-mediated chloride conductance. thereby causing membrane hyperpolarization and then followed by CNS depression. So benzodiazepines bind specifically to a regulatory site and GABA receptor, distinct from GABA binding site and enhanced receptor affinity for GABA. GABA receptors mediate the fast inhibitory synaptic response produced by activating GABAergic neurons. So they basically bind to GABA. The effect of benzodiazepines is to enhance the response to GABA by facilitating the opening of GABA-activated chloride channels. So they increase the frequency of channel opening, but they have no change in the conductance or mean open time. So as you can see here, GABA has got a pentameric structure and has got several binding sites. So what are the pharmacological actions of GABA, benzodiazepines? So they mainly cause sedation and hypnosis. And then they decrease anxiety. There is muscle relaxation. They act as they have got anti-convergence effects, and then anterograde amnesia, transient analgesic effect after IV administration, and they do have antidepressant effects, mainly alprazolam. So on the CNS, they cause sedation, hypnosis. There is decreased anxiety, and they cause muscle relaxation, anti-convergent effects, anterograde amnesia, transient analgesic effect after IV administration, and they do cause the antidepressant effects, mainly that of alprazolam. On the respiration, they do not inhibit respiration in hypnotic doses, can cause apnea when combined with other CNS depressants, mainly opiates and alcohol. As such, they do not have any impact on respiration, unlike barbiturates. So they do not inhibit respiration in hypnotic doses, can cause apnea when combined with other CNS depressants like opiates as well as alcohol. So in patients with obstructive sleep apnea, benzodiazepines in hypnotic doses decreases muscle tone in the upper airway. Thereby, there is exaggerate apneic episodes. And they cause coronary vasodilatation after IV administration. Hence, you see a fall in blood pressure, and they do cause neuromuscular blockade in high doses. So now let's see the pharmacokinetics of these drugs, benzodiazepines. So generally given orally, IV, or occasionally rectal in children, and they have got large volume of distribution. Their action is short, or they have got short duration of action, mainly metabolized in the liver. These drugs can cross placental barrier, hence the physician treating should be, they should give with care. So these are the pharmacokinetics, generally given orally, IV, or occasionally rectal in children. They have got large volume of distribution, has got short duration of action, mainly metabolized in the liver. These drugs can cross placental barrier as well. So therapeutic is mainly used in the treatment of insomnia. And these are the drug of choice. So drugs like triazolam, temazepam, flurazepam, all these drugs are used for insomnia. They are the drug of choice. These drugs have superseded barbiturates because of the high margin of safety, less drug interactions, less abuse liability, less distortion of sleep architecture. So these are the advantages of benzodiazepines over barbiturates. Or why have they replaced barbiturates is because of the high margin of safety, less drug interactions, less abuse liability, as well as less distortion of sleep architecture. And then no hyperalgesia, no drug automatism, can be used as a daytime anxiolytic, no effect on RS and CVS at hypnotic doses. And they, of course, do have a specific antidote. So that is the reason why we prefer benzodiazepines over barbiturates. So these are the reasons why do we prefer benzodiazepines over barbiturates. So there are three types of insomnia. So there is the insomnia of three types. You all know what is insomnia: disturbed sleep. So the person has, he won't be sleeping, he won't have good sleep, or there is lack of sleep, and there is disturbance in sleep. So it's the three types, mainly transient insomnia, short-term insomnia, and then long-term chronic insomnia. So transient insomnia generally lasts less than 7 days. For example, jet lag. So whoever is flying from abroad, so they do complain of jet lag, shift work or new place, etc. So drugs like triazolam and then temazepam are used. And then short-term insomnia, which lasts for 1 to 3 weeks. Example, an expected but self-limiting problem. The patient may have induction difficulty. Example, temazepam or flurazepam are used. Long-term chronic insomnia, which lasts longer than 3 weeks, indicates an underlying disease or a personality disorder. So drugs like flurazepam or nitrazepam supposed to be used at bedtime is preferred. So the drugs are supposed to be used at bedtime. So that constitutes types of insomnia. So as we have discussed, these are three types: transient insomnia, short-term insomnia, as well as long-term insomnia. So whenever there is a question asked in exam, you're supposed to write what is insomnia and describe the types of insomnia, and then what are the drugs which are preferred or which are used for treating insomnia are supposed to be given, are supposed to be written. So it is also second therapeutic use, mainly used in the treatment of anxiety neurosis. So drugs like diazepam, alprazolam, lorazepam, oxazepam, and chlordiazepoxide are used. And diazepam mainly is used in the treatment of acute panic stress. Lorazepam, oxazepam used for short-term anxiety, and then chlordiazepoxide for chronic anxiety, and alprazolam anxiety associated with depression, less sedation. So in a dose of 0.25 to 0.5 mg is used. So the therapeutic use of these benzodiazepines, they're mainly used in the treatment of insomnia, and apart from that, they're also used in treatment of anxiety neurosis. So all these drugs, they are used for treating anxiety neurosis. So drugs like diazepam, alprazolam, lorazepam, and then diazepam is used in treatment of acute panic states. Lorazepam, short-term anxiety, chlordiazepoxide used for chronic anxiety, and alprazolam, anxiety associated with depression. And then they are used in the treatment of these drugs are used as a pre-anesthetic medication and for anesthesia. Apart from that, they're also used to treat epilepsy. Drugs like diazepam, clonazepam, when given IV, are used to treat status epilepticus, and then clonazepam, clobazam, absence seizures and myoclonic seizures. They're also used used for control of ethanol and other sedative hypnotic withdrawal syndromes, and then for spasticity of central origin. So these are the therapeutic uses of benzodiazepines. So one, they're used in treatment of insomnia. Number two, they're used to treat anxiety neurosis. Three, as a pre-anesthetic medication and for anesthesia, and they're used for treating epilepsy and to control of ethanol and other sedative hypnotics withdrawal symptoms, and for treating spasticity of central origin. So let's see the drug interactions of these benzodiazepines. The benzodiazepines potentiate the effects of other CNS depressants such as alcohol, hypnotics, and then neuroleptics. So smoking decreases the activity of benzodiazepines. So one should not smoke when you're taking benzodiazepines. Aminophylline antagonizes the sedative effects of benzodiazepines. So aminophylline should not be combined with, or benzodiazepines should not be given with aminophylline because they antagonize the sedative effects of benzodiazepines. And enzyme inhibitors like cimetidine and ketoconazole enzyme enhance benzodiazepine action. So these are a couple of drug interactions we see. And then let's see the adverse effects of these drugs. So common side effects, they include drowsiness, confusion, amnesia, disorientation, tolerance, and then dependence is seen. So use of benzodiazepine during labor may cause respiratory depression and hypotonia in the newborn, which is called as floppy baby syndrome. So these are the common side effects or adverse effects. And the common side effects include drowsiness, confusion, amnesia, disorientation, tolerance, as well as dependence is seen. And then use of benzodiazepine during labor may cause respiratory depression, hypotonia in the newborn, floppy baby syndrome. How do you treat or what is acute toxicity? Benzodiazepines in acute overdose are considerably less dangerous than other hypnotics. They cause prolonged sleep without serious depression of respiration or cardiovascular. The availability of an effective antagonist, flumazenil. So acute toxicity can be overcome by using an antagonist called as flumazenil. As such, they do not cause they are less dangerous as such when compared to other sedatory hypnotics. They cause prolonged sleep without serious depression of respiration or cardiovascular system. And they have got an effective antagonist called as flumazenil. Benzodiazepine antagonist. Benzodiazepine antagonist. Flumazenil, competitive antagonist at benzodiazepine binding site. It competitively reverses effects of benzodiazepine agonist. So the patient becomes alert within 5 minutes of administration of this flumazenil. So what happens over it? It competitively reverse effects of benzodiazepine by acting as a competitive antagonist at benzodiazepine binding site. So what happens here? The patient becomes alert within 5 minutes. So they are not used orally because of high first-pass metabolism. Hence, they are supposed to be given IV and has got a half-life of 1 hour. So required repeated dose IV injection for IV infusion. If there is higher, whenever there is repeat required, the drug is required. So these drugs, benzodiazepine antagonist flumazenil, they competitively antagonize the binded benzodiazepine binding site, and it competitively reverses the effects of benzodiazepine agonists. And the patient becomes alert within 5 minutes. So these drugs are not supposed to be given orally because they have got high first-pass metabolism, hence to be given IV, and half-life is 1 hour. Required, if required, repeated IV injection or infusion is supposed to be given. So what are the uses of these benzodiazepine antagonists or flumazenil? They cause reversal of benzodiazepine sedation after endoscopy, dental procedures, etc. So whenever there is benzodiazepine overdosage, and a drug 0.2 mg per minute IV, max 5 mg should be given. So whenever there is benzodiazepine overdose, a dose of 0.2 mg per minute IV is supposed to be given. So the maximum dosage which can be given is 5 mg. They are also used in differential diagnosis of mixed CNS depressant poisoning. So lack of response to 5 mg rules out benzodiazepine poison. If at all, if suppose the patient is not responding to what you call flumazenil 5 mg, so that rules out that the patient has not taken benzodiazepine. So these are a couple of uses of flumazenil. So they reverse benzodiazepine sedation of endoscopy, dental procedure, etc. In benzodiazepine overdosage, a dose of 0.2 mg per minute IV infusion, maximum 5 mg can be given. They're used in differential diagnosis of mixed CNS depressant of depressant poison. And if at all there is lack of response to 5 mg, rules out benzodiazepine poisoning. So what are the adverse effects of these benzodiazepine antagonists or flumazenil? Mainly they cause vomiting, anxiety, precipitation of seizures in epileptics, withdrawal symptoms in patients dependent on benzodiazepines. So these are a couple of adverse effects of flumazenil. So this class is divided into 2 parts. So this is part 1. So in part 1, we have learned what is a sedative hypnotic, what is a sedative, what is a hypnotic, as well as anxiolytic. So what is anxiety we have learned, and then we have learned about the characteristics of anxiety, what is the nature of anxiety, and what are anxiolytics. So we have seen we learned about the classification of anxiety, what are the drugs which are used to treat anxiety, and then the drugs are classified into many types like benzodiazepines and then barbiturates, Z compounds or non-benzodiazepine hypnotics. And we have seen other members of the group also. And we have learned about benzodiazepines, how do they act, and then we have seen their mechanisms of action, their drug adverse effects, and then drug interactions, pharmacological actions, therapeutic uses. So we have seen all those. So this constitutes part one. We'll be discussing other members like barbiturates in part two, and then we'll be discussing about melatonin, so on and so forth in my second lecture. So this constitutes part one. If at all you have got any doubts regarding this, till what about the topic or till what I have taught you, you can call me or you can share me on WhatsApp. So bye.